Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Karma Cards. So yesterday we had our new moon plus partial solar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, and it was a big, intense energy, and a lot of people have been feeling it. I want to talk to you about this partial solar eclipse that we had in Scorpio because it also happened to be in the south node of the moon. So the node points right now are in Taurus and Scorpio, and Taurus is our north node and Scorpio is in the south node. So when we're having a new moon with a partial solar eclipse in the south node, we're looking at the past or what we need to let go of now. And when the moon's in this position, it's also called the moon's fall. So it's the weaker point at which the moon could be placed, or the moon sign can be placed. So with it being in Scorpio and a new moon in Scorpio, it's a really different energy for this last new moon. New moons generally are about what we're going to be calling in, or the energy that's building up and generating. But when we're having it in the south node, it's really about what has to be let go so we can move forward. And also having this partial solar eclipse there, it's like it's highlighting what is sort of blocking your light, right? So let's look at what came up in yesterday's lunation, because we're going to be feeling it as the moon goes through its phases to full over the next 2 weeks. So whenever Scorpio is involved, we're looking at a kind of transformation. And Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and Pluto is known as the power purge planet. It's here to create transformation, and it's either going to, its ultimate goal is to empower you. So it'll either feel empowering or it'll feel like everything's been taken away, right? In order for you to start anew. So it's a really intense energy, and it's the same dynamic that this particular lunation brings is this energy of like something's got to give, it's time to let go of something. And when we're in Scorpio season, we have that psychic heightened awareness, because Scorpio represents this intense psychic energy. And I also like to point out to you that this is the time of the year when the veils are the thinnest. We have several different holidays that sort of fall into this Scorpio window, and they're all about this connection to the other side, right? And so what we know is that the truth is easier to see, the greater truth, right? So the veils are thinning, and it allows us to see deeper than we normally can. And it is especially true about ourselves and how we operate. So during this time, what's going to be coming up are our patterns. The way, the behavioral patterns, maybe coping mechanisms, maybe the things that we haven't looked at before are going to be very easy to see right now, which is the benefit, really, if you think about it. Especially if you know there's something you want to shift because you want to create a different experience in your life. Looking at these patterns is very empowering. And seeing them allows you to move into acceptance and then into action if you wish. But we also know, because of this moon position being in the moon's fall or the south node, that it is a challenge point. So when the moon's in this point, it's in its weaker position, and it's almost like it has an uphill battle, is where that term would, like, that's the perfect term for this, is an uphill battle. So what it's implying is that while we get to see maybe how we're operating, maybe how others operate, or the dynamics in general, it's going to feel like a challenge to deal with it. And so we're being asked in this window not to take on more, but rather to be more centered and silent and still. And I was saying to the people in the spirit circle the other night that, you know, this is a great time to realize that many of our challenges and our things that want healing, you know, we think we have to be conscious and awake to do this. But you actually do quite a bit of this while you're asleep. And so one of the keys at this time is rest. It's napping. It's getting more sleep. It's allowing yourself to go slowly. You can work on yourself while you sleep. Sometimes we do this by default because it's like there's so much built up that needs to be cleared and healed and worked through, and there's just not enough time in the day to do it. Other times we can do it more consciously, where we can, before going to bed, set an intention that as I sleep, I will, heal, or I will find the solution I'm looking for, and I will be able to activate it or act on it starting now. Because what's really important to know is your subconscious mind is the form builder already. And when we're sleeping, we're full subconscious mind. It's building for us. So what it's waiting for, our subconscious mind, is a cue from the conscious mind. That's all it's waiting for, is its instruction. You see, your subconscious mind has no preference for what happens. It doesn't prefer one experience over the other. It accepts all. And so how do we create the experience we want? Well, we have to consciously focus on it. And that's why focusing right before you go to sleep can actually allow you to move into healing, into solution, into repair, simply by guiding the subconscious mind with an intention of what you'd like to have happen. And the subconscious mind will take it and it'll run with it. And just for fun, just to add to the excitement of this window of time, Mars is also going retrograde on October 30th. So it's the last planet really to join the whole retrograde party. Some planets are already turning direct. We know Pluto's direct now, Saturn's direct. But here comes Mars into its own retrograde. And this one, some people find challenging because Mars is that planet of action. It's when it's in a good position, either just in the chart or specifically for you, you feel ready to take action, ready to take something on, really passionate, really driven to go somewhere. When it goes retrograde, all of that gets internalized, which can feel like coming to a standstill. Now, you can hear the message from the universe is like, slow down. There's not much action to take right now. Like, be more still and centered in your thoughts. But when that Mars energy internalizes, for some people, it can turn into frustration. Like, I want to take action and I can't. Like, I feel like I'm being stopped. Or every time I try to do something, it falls apart, or something along those lines. And what can happen is that frustration can build up and it can turn into conflict, which is something else Mars is known for. So we can either feel internally conflicted about something, or more likely, take that frustration that's building up and project it and create conflict. So at this time, if we know this, we can sort of have a way to tune into ourselves and go, is this really a conflict outside of me, or is it a conflict within me? And by being able to tap within that and just be like, no, this is just an energy where I feel frustrated. Just by tapping in and tuning into ourselves, we can come to a sort of understanding and peace and deflate that situation. Because even though this might feel like a more complex, frustrating, or slowed down time, all of this is actually for our positive development. When I asked my team to give me a metaphor about it, it's a fermentation period. So it's taking something from one form and transmuting it into another form. But the fermentation period itself can feel like nothing is happening, when in actuality things are literally alchemically shifting inside of you. And it requires great patience. Fermentation requires great patience, right? So if you want a good beer or a good wine or a good sake, you have to go through this fermentation process, and it requires us to sit with it and let it brew and wait. If we try to act too soon during this period, we don't get the result we want, and sometimes it can sour on us. So we really want to get in contact with, yes, I might feel frustrated, or things might feel slowed down, or every time I try to take big action, it just doesn't quite work. We can misinterpret that as meaning I've failed at this, or it's a no-win situation. when in actuality, we're just being told to sit with it a little bit longer for the desired result. And that brings me to today's message from the team. And they're reminding us that there is a goal in this game that's called life. My team often refers to living on this planet as like a game, and there's a goal to the game. And the goal is to get to know one of the most amazing people you'll ever meet. And it's you. And that's why this period is so important, because the longer you sit with yourself, the more you get past the trauma, any conditioning, any negative self-belief, any ego. As you get deeper and deeper under that, you get to meet the incredible energy force that is you. And the longer you can sit in that space, the more sure of your own energy you become, the more authentic and vibrant and powerful you become. And this is one of the things that's really tricky about this game, is there is a lot in this world to distract you. There is a lot to pull your attention. There are shiny objects everywhere. There are other fascinating people. And it's not that we're not supposed to interact with these things, but oftentimes the external world and its pull can pull us so far out of ourselves that we begin to feel that sense of insecurity, right? Then we lose things like self-trust. We're not sure we're good enough, right? We don't fully comprehend our own value. If those aspects are resonating with you, then you know that you're being called inward now to find that security, to remember your value and worth, and to deeply understand so you can trust yourself more. So this journey that we're being taken on right now might not be the funnest ride you've ever been on, but it is one of the most potent rides. And if you remember the goal, which is to get to meet the greatest person you'll ever meet, which is yourself, you'll understand why it's so valuable to go through this period of time now. And with that, let's do this week's karma cards. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I have 2 sets of answers. I have a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel, what do I need right now? Am I looking for action related guidance or outcome related guidance? And of course, you can always choose both. And while you're choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for October 26th through November 2nd. And the flavor of this reading. Okay, we've got the Sun, which is a very, very good card to get. So I'm liking that so far. In the sign of Sagittarius, which is the most positive sign in the zodiac. So it's 2 for 2. In the first house, which is the house of self, the house of yourself. So already I'm feeling that it's very much in alignment with the message the team brought through, but let's see what the messages are. Your spiritual action is to demonstrate your highest ideals immediately. All right, so there's a lot of fire, actually. Everything fire is represented here. So we've got the Sun, which rules Leo. We've got Sagittarius, the other fire sign, and the first house ruled by Aries. So there's a lot of fire in this week's reading, and hence why it's like big action and immediate action. So demonstrate your highest ideals immediately. So this is demonstrate the highest ideals. What is the higher version of you? And that's what you're going to make contact with. And of course, immediately means do it right now. So show the higher version of you immediately by making contact with this version of yourself immediately. And it's just what I was talking about sitting in stillness and getting to meet the greatest person, the goal of this life, getting to meet the greatest person you'll ever meet, which is yourself. And if that triggers you, me saying meeting the greatest person is you, that just shows you where the work is, right? So if we're not seeing ourselves as the greatest person we'll ever meet, we got to ask ourselves why. We might have some stuff in the way, obviously, right? We might have been told that focusing on yourself is selfish or makes you a narcissist, or we might feel like we're not worthy of that title, so we won't take it in, right? So the message remains the same. You are the greatest person you're ever going to meet. The work then is, if I don't agree with that, or if that statement upsets me, I need to dig in and find out why. Mental action at this time, realize the rules of the way you project yourself. This is so important, and it goes in alignment with how you think about yourself is what you project. It's absolutely what you project, and you cannot hide that. And that's how people know who's confident and who has bravado, right? So just to go into it, confidence is a belief in yourself. It's an active belief in yourself. Whether or not you're sure you can do it, if you believe in yourself, you will exude confidence. Bravado is the covering up of how you really feel with a false, boasting big, sometimes macho, sometimes snooty. There's all sorts of ways bravado can show up, but what we know is it's false. So even if we're not highly empathic or deeply intuitive, you can smell, rotten fish when you smell it. It's there. And so you might not be able to put your finger on why this person doesn't quite match to you, but you'll know they don't, right? So it's asking us to pay attention to how you think of yourself, because it will absolutely be what you project. And a facade won't cover it up. Like I said, people can smell what's funky, and so can you, right? We know when we're being authentically ourselves, and we know when we're presenting a false front. And the thing is, our body language will not present a false front for us. It will betray the truth. That's usually what's happening, is the words might come out a certain way, but the body is doing something else. And so we need to recognize that it's the thoughts we're thinking about ourselves are going to create our body language, which will then be the energy we project, and that ends up being how we're perceived. But most importantly, it also affects our self-perception. So when we're viewing ourselves, right, whether we're looking in the mirror or we're looking at a photo, what we're seeing back to us is that feedback about what we really think about ourselves. And usually if we're sort of stuck in that cycle, being able to view ourselves creates more of a vicious cycle where the problem compounds. So it's important to recognize the self-talk in the mind, because the self-talk becomes the body language, becomes the energy we project, and then even equals to what we expect of ourselves. Physical action. Act like a leader, get out into the world and do it on your own. So all this is telling me is, like, if you're waiting for someone to give you permission to do this, you'll be waiting forever, right? This process is a self-driven process. So, it's going to be something where you've got to just start to take this in, because you can wait and wait forever to see, if everyone starts doing it, then I'll do it. Obviously, everyone's going to be working at their own pace, but if you're hearing this message, you are the leader. That's kind of what the universe wants you to know, is that you going in, meeting yourself, really befriending yourself, really becoming aware of how you're talking to yourself is going to have an impact on those around you. And this isn't something we can really buddy up on, right? This is something that meeting ourselves is the sort of solo hero's journey. And so it might not feel like the best time to do it, but it's kind of like, if it's the point of this game, what better time than right now, right? What better time to get started than today? All right, now let's look at the outcomes for the sun in Sagittarius in the first house of self. The spiritual outcome at this time is the creation of insights to understand who you are. Boom, bam, there it is, right? That's absolutely what we're being asked to do right now, is get right in there, get to the goal of the game. Now, what's interesting is this is like the journey we're naturally supposed to be on. But again, like I said, part of the challenge of this game that we're in is the shiny object syndrome, is the fascinating other people and the things that we want to do and the other goals we want to achieve. And it can get really overwhelming to try and tackle all of that. When in reality, if we just focus on the biggest goal, like the overall spiritual goal, which is know thyself, you're already, all of those other things seem to fall into place. They start to make more sense. They start to become easier to understand or to navigate the better you know yourself. And as you start to know yourself and fall in love with yourself, it even gets easier than that. Mental outcome at this time, the gaining of respect for or from the wisdom of your desires. So as we start to know ourselves, the things that we want make more sense. And even if those things seem odd to you or even create a sense of like maybe guilt or shame for wanting something that you're not totally in alignment with, but we have those kind of desires, right? They talk about this about these sort of base desires and then these purified desires, which are more the higher spiritual aspects of desire. We've got them all. And the more that you know yourself, the more you're going to understand and actually come to respect every desire that you live with and recognize that it's trying to show you something about yourself. Maybe it shows you what you need or what needs to heal or where your strengths lie. But the more that you go in and you sit with it all, the more information, understanding, and ultimate respect you have for yourself. It's really beautiful. Basically, what it's saying here is you can heal some of the hardest emotions that we have doing this process, which are guilt and shame. Those are two of the harder emotions to heal only because they're compound emotions. So guilt, for example, is a compound of joy and fear, right? So it's like, I really enjoy this, but I feel bad for choosing this over something else, as an example. And shame being the compound of disgust and fear. Like, I can't believe I did that, or I'd go there, and if anyone would know, I'd just die, right? These are two heavy emotions that feel conflicting and upsetting. But by going through this process of learning your desires and your motivations and behavioral patterns, you're going to end up not just understanding it, but actually respecting how they showed up in your life, why they show up in your life, and what they're trying to show you about your own energy. Physical action at this time. Things brought to life or light resulting from the understanding of your actions. And this is just like the understanding of desires. Now you understand what actions you take, right? So our actions are going to be based on what we believe to be true. We're going to do the thing that we believe is the truth. So for example, we don't manifest what we desire, we manifest what we believe. And as an example of that, how would you take an action to work to make yourself right? So let's say let's say I'm going for a job, right? And I go to the interview, but I don't believe that I'm very qualified for it, or I don't believe they'll pick me because maybe I don't have the experience or something like that. I will work to make that true by sabotaging myself in some way. I'll show up late, or I won't be as organized, or I won't have done the research to show that I understand the position or something. If I'm believing I am not qualified for it, I'm going to work to make that true, even though my desire is to get the job. This is also a period of time where we're going to see how our own actions and therefore our beliefs sabotage our best efforts, because it's almost sometimes like we are multiple people inside of us. And to a degree, that's sort of true. There are aspects that make up the self, right? We often visualize ourselves as like a mono being, but we're a multidimensional being. So we've got many different aspects of ourselves. You know, you've got your inner child, you've got your higher self, you've got your human self, and those are just three. We also have our defense mechanisms. We also have our beliefs, and these generate parts of our personality. They generate thoughts, emotions, and actions, which is almost like a fractal of your greater persona. And so as we go in and we start to meet these parts, we can start to create the merge or the unification field, which is that's how we meet the greatest person we're ever going to meet, is we actually meet the aspects and then we create the merge or the unification field. And then you get to see what happens when all of these work together like a beautiful orchestra playing the same song instead of a disjointed band playing one song here and one song there, right? We're going to meet all aspects, create the divine union within self, and play our most beautiful song. And so with that, I hope you go into this period knowing that, yeah, it might not feel the best or you might encounter challenges, but all you have to do is find those moments of stillness and center, go within, and meet the coolest person you're ever going to meet. Sending you lots of love. Mwah. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical. My name is Therese Tucker, and I want to welcome you to Mercury Pod Coaching. I created this group coaching program to help you move out of procrastination and into traction towards your big goals. I know how it feels to dream really big and then all of a sudden find yourself sitting there spinning in place, not getting anywhere closer to your goal. It can be really easy to get caught up in feeling flustered and confused and not know what action to take, and so you completely stop taking any action at all. If this sounds familiar to you, then there's a good chance that you've got some mindset blocks in the way that are preventing you from taking actions right now that can get you closer to your big dream and create real change in your life. Here's what you need. You need someone who can see those mindset blocks and help you get out of indecision, move into inspired action, and do it quickly. And that's where I come in. So what is the Mercury Coaching Pod? It is a 30-day coaching program where you will have weekly coaching calls live with me to help you implement your plans and take action now. In this group coaching program, you will also get one private session with me where we can completely deep dive into what it is you're trying to create, and I can help you create the action tasks that you're going to need to complete in 30 days to get ahead. If you're ready to jumpstart your goals and get going right now, then you are the perfect person for this pod coaching program. So if you're interested, hit the Get Access button below. And of course, I look forward to seeing you in the Mercury Pod Coaching Program. All my love. Mwah.